Hello there, it's midnight and you're tuning into Nightline with me, Azaria Tagaya. The top stories. Political instability stopped Malaysia from achieving Tier 1 of the Trafficking in Persons report. And 4.5 million Malaysians likely to lose jobs by 2030. Good morning. Malaysia could not elevate itself to Tier 1 of the US State Department's 2023 Trafficking in Persons report because of the uncertain political landscape over the past few years. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said political factors had hindered efforts to raise the country's status from Tier 2 to Tier 1, where Malaysians need not apply for any visa for travels to the United States.
Pada satu ketika Malaysia berada di dalam Tier 3 atas usaha kerjasama PDRM, Jabatan Immigration dan Kementerian Dalam Negeri, kita telah dapat mempertingkatkan ke taraf Tier 2. Kita telah berusaha untuk mempertingkatkan ke taraf Tier 1 di mana warga negara Malaysia sebagaimana negara-negara Tier 1 yang lain tidak perlu memohon visa untuk mengadakan lawatan ke US.
He was speaking at the launching of the 23rd FBI National Academy Association Asia Pacific Chapter Conference in Subang Jaya, Selangor. The USTIP report issued by the US State Department on June 17th announced that Malaysia is back on the Tier 2 watch list. Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid also expressed confidence that the government's cooperation with the police force under the leadership of Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Razaruddin Hussein would help propel the country's status in the report. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim arrived in Vientiane on Monday for a two-day official visit to Laos to further strengthen bilateral relations and economic cooperation with the ASEAN member state. His maiden visit to the country that will take the helm of the ASEAN chairmanship next year was at the invitation of his counterpart, Dr. Sonsei Sifandon. Upon arrival, the Prime Minister held an engagement session with leaders of Muslim organizations in the country to discuss the issues of the Ummah at a hotel in Vientiane. Then on Tuesday, a bilateral meeting with Sifandon is scheduled, preceded by the official welcoming ceremony. Datuk Seri Anwar and Sifandon will then witness the signing of several Memoranda of Understanding (MOU). The Prime Minister will also call on the President of Laos, Dr. Thongloun Sisoulith, and is scheduled to meet with the Malaysian diaspora, where some 230 Malaysians in Laos are expected to attend. For the record, Malaysia is Laos's fourth biggest foreign direct investment contributor last year, where total trade between Malaysia and Laos surged by 425% from 202.5 million ringgit in 2021 to 1.13 billion ringgit last year. Earlier, in his keynote address at Energy Asia 2023 in the federal capital, Datuk Seri Anwar said investors and financiers will risk losing out by not turning towards Asia, which is endowed with vast amounts of natural resources, potential renewable energy, and a growing population that is not averse to co-innovation and is increasingly appreciative of the green economy. The Prime Minister said that in light of this, there is further potential for the region to develop as a player in the net zero value chain, in as much of the rich biodiversity resources and a high percentage of forest cover offer abundant nature-based solutions.
Developing these resources and potential requires access to financing, technology and innovation, the right policy framework and skill sets for the future. Achieving the climate goal for the region will require significant traction in clean energy investment.
The Prime Minister added that developing these resources and potential requires access to financing, technology and innovation, the right policy frameworks and skill sets for the future. He also noted that more than 75% of the energy consumed in Asia comes from hydrocarbons, and by 2030, Asia's demand for energy is projected to double. As many as 4.5 million Malaysians are likely to lose their jobs by 2030 if they do not improve their skills or attend reskilling and upskilling programs. Human Resources Minister V. Sivakumar said this was based on the 2020 World Economic Forum warning that artificial intelligence could cause a recession in the job market, as it was already being used to automate tasks in industries such as manufacturing, healthcare and customer service. Sivakumar said in the report it was stated that to remain employed in the next 2 years, 50% of workers will need to be retrained. With the advent of the Industrial Revolution 4.0, there's an urgent need to transform the national workforce into a skilled workforce to remain relevant. He said, however, Malaysia is fortunate because the new jobs are work that can be combined with technology, and the need to improve skills is not only for career advancement or change, but to stay in the job. As such, Sivakumar said the ministry, through the Skill Development Fund Corporation, in collaboration with Talent Corporation Malaysia Berhad, created ID TAP, which aimed to improve skills and retrain 900 workers based on industry needs. For the initiative, he said 7.2 million ringgit was allocated for workers to be equipped with knowledge and skills required by industries. Targeted workers are those with work experience of 5 years or less, adding that of the 900 workers to be selected, approval had been given to 627 participants. Sivakumar said those interested in the program could apply through their companies or state skill development centres. More than 31,000 youth aged 35 and below have been registered as bankrupts from 2014 to May this year. Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Legal and Institutional Reform, Ramkapal Singh, said this was based on records from the Malaysian Department of Insolvency, or MDI. Concerned about the situation, Ramkapal said the government has implemented several initiatives, including bankruptcy discharge for those declared bankrupt for debts below 50,000 ringgit and meeting the conditions from March 1st this year.
MDI telah juga meminda Seksyen 5 Subsection 1 Subsection A Akta Insolvensi 1967 iaitu Akta 360 melalui Akta Insolvensi Pindaan 2020 atau Akta A1624 yang telah diwartakan pada 22 hari bulan Oktober 2020 dan berkuat kuasa sejak 1 hari bulan September 2021.
He said the amendment aims to set the minimum debt limit to 100,000 ringgit, which indirectly helps to reduce the percentage of bankrupts registered with MDI, including youth. He said this during a question and answer session at Dewan Negara in response to a question by Senator Muhammad Hasbi Muda, who wanted to know the number of bankrupt youth and the government's efforts to curb the issue. Ramkapal added that the government also introduced provisions regarding automatic discharge in 2017 under Act 360. He said the provision allows bankrupts to be discharged from bankruptcy within a short period of 3 years from the date of filing the Statement of Affairs with MDI. The government has also made improvements to the provision of automatic discharge through the Insolvency Amendment Bill 2023, which was approved in the Dewan Rakyat on May 24th and the Dewan Negara on June 19th. In addition, the government, through Bank Negara Malaysia, has introduced the policy document on fair treatment of financial consumers to help people who are experiencing serious debt problems.
Hukuman penjara 12 tahun terhadap pengasas rumah bonda.
Mami tolong tengok Bella.
Ya Allah, anak aku. Ya Allah, ya Allah.
Setiap hari memang Bella diberi makan cili.
Seorang lelaki didakwa di Mahkamah Majistret atas tuduhan membunuh teman wanitanya yang hamil 4 bulan.
Dia dah bunuh, lepas tu dia bakar. Kau boleh bela anak kau ke dibuat macam tu?
Fail Mahkamah, Rabu 9 malam di TV3 dan stream secara HD ditonton.
Individual statements made by any key component party leaders in Barisan Nasional do not reflect the official stance of the coalition, especially ahead of the upcoming 6 state polls. BN Chairman Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said in critical situations, such as in facing the 6 state elections, individual statements from component party leaders that contradict the principles of BN are not welcome.
Saya ucapkan terima kasih kerana kepimpinan utama MCA, MIC dan PBRS memang mendukung BRN yang akan kita sama-sama hadapi ini. Kerjasama di antara BN dan PH berada di tahap terbaik sekarang ini dan pada khidmat saya kita tidak perlu melayani pendapat individu walaupun ianya berbeza tetapi parti tidak endorse kepada pendapat-pendapat yang berbeza itu.
He was speaking during a media conference after opening the 23rd FBI National Academy Associates Asia Pacific Chapter Conference in Subang Jaya. Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid, who is also Deputy Prime Minister and UMNO President, was responding to news reports citing MCA Youth, which called on the party to skip the state polls. It is learnt that the remark was made after UMNO Supreme Council member Datuk Lokman Adam was reported to have described MIC and MCA as liabilities, using the term biawak hidup or dead weight. Some 86.9% of the more than 8,800 respondents in a survey conducted by the Information Department are in favour of the Malaysia Madani concept. Communications and Digital Minister Fahmi Fazil said the results of a survey conducted about 5 months ago also found that 68.1% of the respondents understood the concept.
Petanda yang positif yang mana di pihak kementerian kita ambil maklum dan berusaha untuk memastikan bahawa ia bukan seperti yang Muhammad Senator sebutkan tadi, sekadar retorik, tapi memang jelas daripada usaha dan ikhtiar kerajaan dari segi ekonomi, menjaga tata susila di kalangan masyarakat, keharmonian, perpaduan, keutuhan masyarakat itu sendiri dan diterjemah lebih daripada semata-mata sebagai slogan ataupun konsep. Jadi alhamdulillah pada waktu ini dari segi hasil ekonomi, pelaburan yang masuk dan sebagainya memang jelas ia mendatangkan hasil yang positif kepada rakyat.
He said this in a response to a supplementary question from Senator Dato' Azhar Ahmad, who wanted to know the efforts by the government to spread information and make the people understand the concept of Malaysia Madani. In the meantime, he said the ministry would continue to carry out various programs and edutainment performances to disseminate information to the public. Media Prima Berhad MPB has announced the appointment of Nini Yusof as the new Media Prima Television Network's MPTN and Primeworks Studios Chief Executive Officer effective August 1st. Nini, who succeeds Datuk Khairul Anwar Saleh's tenure, will oversee the operations of TV3, TV9, 8TV, NTV7, Tonton and Primeworks Studios. MPB Group Managing Director Rafiq Razali said her extensive experience in the domestic and regional media segments is invaluable for the group to continue providing high-quality content for audiences and innovative solutions for advertisers. Previously, Nini was appointed as MPTN and Primeworks Studios Deputy Chief Executive Officer. She also held several key leadership roles within MPB since joining in 2012. These include her previous senior positions as MPTN Sales and Strategy Director, as well as Media Prima Omnia and Primeworks Studios Chief Content Officer. Prior to joining MPB, Nini was with NBC Universal, Fox Networks Group and Star TV. Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, who kicked off his 2-day official trip to Laos on Monday, describes the visit as an opportunity for him and his counterpart, Dr. Sonsei Sifandon, to further enhance and strengthen friendship and bilateral cooperation between the two countries. In his social media post on Monday night, the Prime Minister said the visit also allows positive momentum to be built before Laos assumes the ASEAN chairmanship from Indonesia next year. Datuk Seri Anwar hoped that this visit will benefit both countries. This maiden visit is to further strengthen bilateral relations and economic cooperation with the ASEAN member state. When we come back, Australia to find major tech companies. Don't go away. back with the foreign news. Indonesian police are conducting preliminary inquiries into whether any action by officials at the country's drug regulator could amount to criminal wrongdoing as they expand a probe into tainted cough syrups linked to the deaths of more than 200 children across the nation. According to the lead police investigator of the case, police have called in many officials from the country's Food and Drugs Agency, BPOM, for questioning, and the investigation is still underway. In the meantime, no one at BPOM has been accused of wrongdoing. Following the investigation, police could ultimately pursue criminal charges or close the probe without taking action. The police scrutiny of Indonesia's Food and Drugs Agency, BPOM, is the latest escalation by states seeking accountability for contaminated syrups that were linked to the deaths of dozens of children in Gambia and Uzbekistan last year. Tech giants in Australia could face billions of dollars in fines for failing to tackle disinformation under proposed laws, which a government watchdog on Monday said would bring mandatory standards to the little regulated sector. Under the legislation, owners of platforms like Facebook, Google, TikTok and more would face penalties worth up to 5% of their annual global turnover. The Australian Communications and Media Authority would then be granted the power to force companies to prevent misinformation from spreading and stop it from being monetized. However, the watchdog would not have the power to take down or sanction individual posts, but it could instead punish platforms for failing to monitor the intentionally misleading content. The proposed bill seeks to strengthen the current voluntary Australian Code of Practice on Disinformation and Misinformation, launched in 2021, but has had limited impact. Conservative leader Kyriakos Mitsotakis was sworn in for a second term as Prime Minister on Monday, following a resounding election win in which he vowed to bring about major reforms to transform the country. His centre-right New Democracy Party obtained over 40% of the votes and 158 seats in the 300-seat parliament in the repeat election on Sunday, well ahead of the 48 secured by leftist Syriza, which ran Greece from 2015 to 2019 at the height of the decade-long economic crisis. Mitsotakis promised to push ahead with reforms to rebuild the credit rating after the debt crisis, boost revenue from the vital tourist industry and increase wages to near the European Union average. The 55-year-old former banker and scion of a powerful political family was Prime Minister from 2019 until he stepped down in favour of a caretaker premier following an inconclusive May 21st vote. South Korea's government unveiled plans on Monday aimed at curbing the country's burgeoning spending on private education, which has been blamed for being a major factor behind the country's declining fertility rate. Education Minister Lee Joo-ho said that it will break the vicious cycle of killer questions in exams, which leads to excessive competition among students and parents in private education. The ministry also vowed to crack down on private education cartels by ramping up efforts to monitor what it termed false and exaggerated advertising by private schools targeting exam preparations. The move comes as President Yoon Suk-yeol this month criticized college entrance tests that incorporate questions not in the curriculum at public schools, including some that have been dubbed killer questions because of their complexity. Easy victory for JDT. FA Cup action when we come back. sports now. Football, the 2023 FA Cup. Favourites Johor Darul Takzim faced no trouble claiming a spot in the final as they convincingly outplayed Selangor FC in the semi-final on Monday night. Muhammad Arif Aiman Hanapi's hat-trick in the first half gave JDT a 3-0 lead into the break. Fernando Forestieri capped the home side's fine performance with JDT's fourth 2 minutes into the second half, sealing a 4-0 win. JDT will play KL City FC in the final on July 22nd at the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium in Johor Bahru. Still on football, the 2023 Super League. 2 matches took place on Monday night. Negeri Sembilan FC had to be satisfied with a share of points after they were held to a 1-1 draw by Penang FC. In Kota Bharu, Kelantan United's miserable campaign continued as they suffered a 3-0 defeat to Sabah FC. A goal each from Sadil Ramdhani, Stuart Wilkin and Badrul Bakhtiar gave Sabah the much-needed 3 points. With the win, Sabah maintained their 5th spot in the standings with 27 points, while Kelantan United remained second bottom with 6 points after 15 matches. The Brazilian Serie A now. Grêmio crushed Coritiba 5-1 to extend their unbeaten home run to 11 and keep pace with the league leaders. Grêmio struck their first goal after 34 minutes when the referee awarded them a penalty following a handball from Nathaniel. Branco Cristaldo stepped up and smashed in the spot kick. The lead lasted for 7 minutes when Coritiba drew level through Alif Manga's curling effort. Matias Villasanti restored Grêmio's advantage 3 minutes into the second half with Luis Suarez the provider. Bitelo made it 3-1 in the 54th minute following a quickly taken corner kick before Suarez turned goal scorer in the 66th minute with a fine strike from outside the penalty box to put the result beyond doubt. Andre Enrique finally laid the icing on the cake 7 minutes from time, sealing a comfortable 5-1 win for Grêmio. The victory put Grêmio in second with 23 points, 7 points behind leaders Botafogo, while Coritiba stay bottom with just 4 points. RMAF incident, police to record statements of all witnesses. Details after this short break.
Terhadap pengasas rumah bonda.
Mami tolong tengok Bella. Setiap hari memang Bella diberi makan cili.
Seorang lelaki didakwa di Mahkamah Majistret atas tuduhan membunuh.
Nightline. Police will record the statements of all those present during a weapons training exercise at the Syed Sirajuddin camp in Gemas, where an accident caused the death of 2 Air Force personnel. Negeri Sembilan Police Chief Dato' Ahmad Zafir Muhammad Yusof said his officers have already started the probe at the camp.
Siasatan daripada pihak PDRM ni adalah melibatkan kes sudden death ataupun mati mengejut. Namun pihak tentera udara pun saya dimaklumkan bahawa mereka juga menjalankan siasatan untuk mengenal pasti kejadian.
He was speaking to the media when met at the State Police Contingent on Monday. Earlier, the Air Force in a statement had also urged all parties not to make any speculation until the investigation process was completed and to respect the sensitivity of the families of the personnel involved. In the incident on Sunday, Air Force personnel 22-year-old Muhammad Ikmal Masdi and 33-year-old Corporal Udara Shuib Bidin were killed while undergoing shooting and grenade throwing training at the Basic Grenade Training Centre at Syed Sirajuddin Camp in Gemas. Another victim who was injured, 35-year-old Khairul Zaman Lokman, is currently receiving treatment in hospital and is reported to be in stable condition. All 3 were from the Sundayan Air Base Institute of Administration and Studies. A police inspector filmed berating a Lance Corporal and a member of the public in 2 separate viral videos has been charged at the Selayang Magistrates Court. Sheila Sharon Stephen Kumar, however, claimed trial to intending to insult the modesty of the Lance Corporal and a member of the public, as well as criminal intimidation towards another civilian. Sheila was charged under Section 506 of the Penal Code with intimidating a woman and faces up to 2 years jail or a fine or both if convicted. She was also charged with intending to insult the modesty of a man under Section 509 of the Penal Code, which provides for a maximum 5-year prison sentence or a fine or both upon conviction. Magistrate Chai Guan Hock allowed bail of 3,000 ringgit with 1 shorty. In a separate court, Sheila was charged with intending to insult the modesty of Lance Corporal Abdul Arif Farhan Abdul Razak. Magistrate Nur Hafiza Rajuni granted bail of 2,000 ringgit. All 3 offences were allegedly committed at an eatery at Taman Sri Gombak around noon on June 15th. Meanwhile, Bukit Aman Integrity and Standards Compliance Department Director Dato' Azri Ahmad said Inspector Sheila has been served a suspension order under Section 78 of the Police Act. Therefore, any power, rights or privileges as an officer has been revoked until the matter is decided by the Police Disciplinary Board. Earlier, the 35-year-old inspector had claimed that she was never served any suspension letter. Love for music and promoting friendship with other countries. These are exactly what 8 members of a U.S. Marine musical group called 3 Marine Expeditionary Force Band, based in Japan, did at one of Malaysia's shopping malls on Monday evening. The group thrilled the crowd in Petaling Jaya, Selangor with their exceptional musical talent and inspiring performances. The group comprises of active duty armed forces and also full-time musicians in the U.S. Marine, entertaining listeners of all ages with 13 of the band's favorite songs, including pop songs. Headquartered in Okinawa, the band has been representing the U.S. Marine since 1965, playing music for military and civic events all over the world. The last time the band performed in Malaysia was in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah in 2018. Well, that concludes Nightline this time around. This summer in the West Bank, a sweet smell wafts through the air as Palestinian women come together to make date-filled cookies mamul for Eid al-Adha, a special pastime for Muslims and Christians, while carpenter Ahmad Idris is busy making wooden molds that are used to decorate and shape these famous holiday cookies. Let's take a look. With that, I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thank you for tuning in and have a great week ahead.